Nigerians continue to
travel the city of Lagos.
There is still a poor level of
Be the first to know. From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa, we break the news.
One Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV.
A 24-hour news station.
Hello. INEC'S 120 billion naira for 2015 elections is what is being asked. But the question we are asking this morning on the program, will this amount be enough? Or would it not be enough? Or better still, will that amount, 120 billion, more than enough for the elections in 2015? How much money will be enough to run a credible election in our nation? Well, indeed, for where Nigeria is expected to be and where Nigeria is going, no amount is too much or too little to run a credible, free and fair elections. So is INEC'S claim or suggestion that 120 may just be about that amount needed for the 2015 election? Would you agree that would be enough, or just under enough, or even more than enough? That's the question we asked this morning on Core Digest. I am Sheyi Martins. Welcome to our program. Our guest this morning is Chuks Nwoko, a publisher of the MDG magazine, the Millennium Development Goals magazine, and who is also a public analyst, is the one we're talking with this morning. Ebon Oblomo Adekule is very much here as well. We welcome you.
You're welcome, Mr. Chuks.
Thank you for having me.
If at this point we're talking about 120 billion naira, first I would like to ask you, in your own opinion, if that is enough, not enough, or more than enough. But before you answer that question, if at this point the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters is saying that INEC has not started its electoral programs as it concerns the forthcoming general elections in 2015, what implications do you feel that will have on the elections, considering the number of months we have left before the elections?
I don't work in INEC. Like you rightly introduced me, I'm just a public analyst and a publisher whose main concern is the MDGs, the use of money to eradicate poverty and all that. So I can say categorically, from where I stand, that they probably have done their budgeting and come to a conclusion that that's what they need. Probably seeking approval and all that. But, you know, as a publisher and a public analyst, one of the things that I have observed in our nation is that people who want to provide leadership for us and people who comment on issues and write on issues like us basically lack the understanding of the dimensions of our nation, particularly with the size and the population of issues. I mean, I've traveled from Lagos to Abia State, and I know that from one point of Abia State to another point took me 2 days. And I know that in 2006 or thereabout, I have had opportunity of playing a political role in Borno State. And I dealt with citizens of that state whom I couldn't make contact with. I was in Maiduguri waiting for this guy who was in some part. It took him 4 days to meet with me in Maiduguri, the capital of the state. Now, I've been almost in all parts of Nigeria. You know, I've been in the southwest of Nigeria, for instance, for more than 30-something years. We must have a clear understanding of the dimensions of Nigeria. You know, the size, the sheer size of Nigeria, the logistics problem, the population itself, and all the other dimensions. So that for me is the knowledge that I bring in discussing this issue. One other thing that I know about Nigeria is that we have issues with money. In the contemporary world where we live in, you cannot live in this world without cash. It's what gives you good life. It's what you use in providing good health for yourself. It's what you use in eating good food. You drive a nice car. And there are so many luxuries. and all that and all that. But the problem we have with money is that, and it's exceptionally different in Nigeria, is that you have a country where we have completely abandoned our core values for national existence and hinged it on money. I mean, if I begin to name the core values with which you and I were brought up: commitment, faithfulness, dedication, integrity, truthfulness, hard work, diligence. None of that is essential in today's living in Nigeria. What our leaders have done is that it's about money. Everybody wants to be president. Everybody wants to be governor. Everybody. And you ask what for? It's about the money. They do not understand, and they do not tell you why they want to be president or what. They never tell you. But you and I, take a closer look at those who want to provide leadership for us. They have lack basic understanding. So the issue here is about money. We always chasing money. Do you know that it has trickled down to the barest level of national existence? Nobody does anything for anybody without asking for money. I mean, growing up in Lagos, I pushed a car for one Mr. Asian in 1982. For a long distance, when he finished, he gave me 29, and I refused. That action alone started a relationship between me and him. Until he retired from some big company in Apapa, he became a mentor. He couldn't believe that I will push his car from Friday to somewhere in Pangrove. And he's giving me 29. You know what 29 was at that time? And I said no. And I was just taking a lesson at that time in Igobi College as preparing to do GC. So after a lesson in the night, we were going home and I saw this man pushing. So I helped him. So what am I saying? That we have left all of that for money.
So in this case, are we saying that 120 billion naira is too much for INEC?
I don't, from what the background I've just led to you, it's about money.
The figure is not important.
No, it's about money. If I'm working in INEC, for instance, I would have done my budgeting for everything. Put logistics, put miscellaneous. I mean, I've seen Nigerian budget before. And you just wonder what is going on. So, for me, I want to believe that those people who have prepared that budget, they are Nigerians and they are patriotic like me, and that they have an understanding of what or have an understanding that money is not everything, and that with 120 billion naira, if they can deliver good elections. But it's also a very dangerous sign. By the way, I don't even know how 120 billion naira looks like. I don't even know what 100 million naira looks like. I have not seen that kind of money before. So I will not exceed the boundaries of my comment, making a commentary this morning and dive into an area where I'm not proficient. I don't know the quantum, I don't know the size and all that. I haven't prepared the budget for them. But the point is that I bring to you this one is that we live a life that is reduced to money. So in preparing that budget in that office, they would have taken into consideration all the things that they need to do, the size of the country, the logistics, the problem. But my worry is that democracy has become a burden on our national life.
Indeed.
If you're budgeting only that for elections, and some elections have already taken place, some are going to take place before 2015. So you're just talking about election for few states in 2015. And from what you said, preparation has not even started. And by the way,
according to the committee,
by the way, there's no guarantee. Nobody's giving you guarantee that with all that money, you're going to have a free and fair election. So bringing me and you to the point that I made earlier, that money in itself it's not a solution, a solution to all our national problems.
Well, INEC chairman was saying in a statement the other day that they are learning every day, and they are improving every day. And it takes money to do some of these things. Absolutely. You did talk about the logistics, and I remember very well one of the elections, just even round the corner from it, in the States, just round the corner. In Ogun State, for instance, there are places called waterside. And we know all of those areas where logistical issues can sometimes be cumbersome. These are some of the areas where INEC'S proficiency had been questioned in the past. In recent past, with respect to Anambra, for instance, Moko, you see that when they name figures, it doesn't matter anymore, but people get baffled with the number. You did say, I mean, you don't know what 100 million looks like. In fact, I remember, with respect to the same election, I want to refer you to Justice Ovio Whiskey, who says, I see 1 million, I will waiting. Collapse. Just 1 million.
Absolutely.
1 million naira. he says he will probably die if he sees 1 million naira because he doesn't know what it looks like. And that was an electoral officer.
Absolutely.
Here we have an electoral officer saying 120 billion. That is a whole state's budget for an event.
Yes.
Please excuse me.
Now, one of the things you also need to realize is that Nigeria is a very rich country. So people who prepare this budget, they have an idea. Nigeria is one of the unique countries in the world where you have natural resources, right? That are embedded right under the earth. Do you understand? What you need to be able to extract them is technology. And the other thing Nigeria is blessed with is human beings. Not just human beings, quality human beings. So some of us who are in those positions of authority, like in INEC, for instance, they have that understanding. So this is an opportunity to ask for money to be able to run an election. The question to ask is, how much did it cost India to run their last election? Do you understand? Now, I mentioned our natural resources. It's very important that we pay attention to that because it is not the politicians who put the natural resources there under the earth. Even the technology that we need to extract it is still not the politicians who produced or manufactured or invented those things. It's God who put those resources under the earth that inspired men with ideas and inspiration to come up with technologies to go and bring those things out. So when you juxtapose that, do you understand? You can actually take care of your people. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, when you extract the resources, take the technology, you bring it out, and you have quantum money. Now, you might not know how much Nigeria makes on a daily basis. They understand. So it's an ample opportunity for them to make this presentation. And there are committees in the different arms of the National Assembly. They too, they are part of the people who scrutinize and make approval and all that and all that. Everybody's interested. But the question I ask is, how much does it cost to conduct election in the United States of America? India just conducted an election. Colombia just conducted an election. Yes. There are elections that are... South Africa just conducted an election and all that and all that. So the question to ask is, how much did it cost them? Just oppose it. The difference between the example that I have drawn is the fact that Nigeria is an endowed nation and our leaders, their tentacles know, they know in their mindset, in their body, in their soul, in their spirit, that this nation is very rich. So it provides them an opportunity. So profligacy is... Absolutely. Because you see, that is what we have become. You and I included. It's not our neck, it's not our leaders. All of us, the guy in the street. Look, when you get up in the morning and you go to a Jota bus stop, there's a carpenter that is doing stuff for me and all that. And I called him, I said, why are you doing this so much? I gave him a job and I said, why are you doing this? He said, what should I do? I said, you should go to the bus stop and be shouting, Owomida, Owomida. His stress is too much. And it's not, because it's not delivering. I got upset with him and I said, you can't be doing this. You're not proficient in what you're doing. You're not able to deliver. And you want to cheat me. So what you can do is leave this job and go to the bus stop. So it's always easier for us to point finger at somebody else. But all of us are guilty. We have become money conscious people. And we copied it from our leaders. When people started building houses on a hilltop. And abandon the core values of leadership. What is the example? What are we supposed to learn from our leaders? Examples. So we have copied them. It's about the money. I do social enterprise. The figure is what we're looking at. You see, here was the figure. I will not be able to comment on it. In this country, yes. In this country, somebody ran an election with 12.6 million naira. National election, 12.6 million naira. Then the next one went on to and somebody said, oh, you get a bribe of 1 million. And the man says, I see 1 million, I will die. Now we're talking of 120 billion. Look at the numbers of zeros. Because I don't think that is too much. I don't really think that, because from my explanation, the comments I've made so far, I'm not saying that it's too much, because I do not have any justification to say that it's too much. Or too less. Huh? Or too less. Or too less. But the problem I have is that I've always believed that we have missed it as a nation. So the amount of money is irrelevant. Yes.
Let's get this right, gentlemen. The 120 billion naira is proposed by the House Committee on Electoral Matters. Matter of fact, the budget for INEC in 2014 budget is 45 billion naira, leaving it 75 billion naira short. So my question is, let's assume that the House Committee has made the perfect investigations and findings, and it is saying it is supposed to be 120 billion naira to have a good election come 2015. What is the implication of INEC not eventually having that amount of money and having 75 billion naira short?
Like I said, it's not money. The money does not guarantee you successful election. It's just a burden of democracy. That's my opinion on that. If the people are asking for 45 billion and this house says they need this and all that, I don't have any right or justification to act like I'm a holy man by saying that they are wrong. I think that they should be given the money to give election. You know why? Because our economic life and our social life is hinged on the decisions of these people. I give you a very good example. When the Pension Act in 2006 was started by former President Obasanjo, it's the same group of people who were in the National Assembly at that time that hijacked that business. Do you understand what I'm saying? If war goes up in this country tomorrow, it will be for political reasons. It's not because me and you were in the studio and we started fighting. Do you understand what I'm saying? So let's not give them an excuse to start all this, because we just have enough problem in our hands. We have the money. Please give it to them. Let them run this election. And let us also be able to hold them accountable, because that's what we don't do. You know, a military officer has just been sacked from his political party and be expelled from the party in China because of bribery. Here, it's our daily habit to take what does not belong to us and go to the court and get somebody to forgive us or expropriate from our sins. So the point I'm making is that let's not play into our hands. We have the money. We're in doubt. We have the money. Give it to them. Let them conduct this election, because we need to get this election done without any quarrel or spat between the political parties.
You have so smartly excused yourself from all this analysis as it concerns money, but you are the publisher of Millennium Developmental Goal magazine.
Yeah.
Let us get to the people, because if we must make perfect preparations for elections, it is a matter of fact that the electorate should be involved. Now, let's talk about the attitude of people to elections. We still know that quite an amount of people live below $1 per day, which is against the MDG. The MDG is to alleviate poverty. Now, what do you think the reaction or the attitude of the electorates would be towards election, considering the poverty level and the money that changes hands during elections?
There's a scripture that says that you will always have the poor with you. India is the home to the largest poor people on the surface of the earth. And Brazil is hosting the World Cup, budgeted so much for infrastructural development in the midst of poverty and lack of education. So you always have poverty. By the way, when they muted these MDGs in the first place, you need to understand why it was muted. It was to alleviate global poverty. It was not a Nigerian poverty that they wanted. It was global poverty issue, because there was just so much poverty in all the nations of the earth. So they came together that September in 2000 and they said, hey, look, let's do something about it. While other nations are doing something about it, we are not here. In fact, what we're doing is that we're creating poverty. For instance, how do the political parties create poverty? You see a political party in government, they say, okay, no more road, you know, those structures that you used to have on the road where you use toll gates.
Toll gates.
You know, politicians, yes. Politicians, in between, they said agitation again, let's put toll gates back. So you go one step forward, you go 10 steps backwards. Now, directly to your question, the electorate is already poor. A man who is down is already down. Do you understand what I'm saying? The man who is rich knows that, I'm rich. He's the worst human being on earth. Have you ever seen a rich man? He has to work hard. He has to be very wicked to maintain that status. But the man who is down, if you give him bread, he's so excited that today I'm going to abandon Gary for bread. He has nothing to fear. It's the man who has suddenly made 100 million naira and has come to realize that this 100 million naira is plenty, but it can't go far. If I buy a house for 56 million naira, I buy a car and all that, the money is gone. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you have elites who are very destructive. You have elites who are very poor. And if you don't understand their thinking, you would think that they are rich. They are rich because of the way they carry on. But the danger we face is that even the man you want to help does not need help. That 120 billion naira, his target is how he can get 500 naira out of it. Yes, now.
Jokes.
When the election starts.
Jokes.
And if you can get a loaf of bread. Look, election just took place in Ekiti State. Let me tell you what I heard on TV. I'm sitting down in my living room and I'm watching this TV station on a Wednesday, about 72 hours before the election. And this former senator sat there on TV. I was saying that they cried to Aso Rock to the president, and I said to him, look, these guys in Ekiti have access to funds, and they're going to be giving 2,000 naira to these elderly people and to people and all that. We want to be able to match them like 4,000 naira to each 2,000 naira they spend. And that God has done it, that they have received answer. And that this election that they are going to win it. And they won. So, on the election day, I'm sitting there in my house and I'm watching TV, and I saw these large queues in the polling stations. And they massively voted for these guys. The issue is that you need to be very careful with the man you want to help. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because, I mean, I live in Lagos here, and I see women drifting towards certain directions. And I call them, I ask them, what is this you're doing? A plate of rice, maybe a bottle of soft drink. That settles it. And they associate with these people. Nothing for years. So you and I, who are always advocating for the poor and for the downtrodden and all that, we need to understand that when that spirit enters people, it will require God. So while that is going on, these rich people must continue to strategize. These political elites must continue to, and it's not in Nigeria, so that we don't kid ourselves. There's what we call elite, destructive elites. They are everywhere. Let me ask you a question. Why do we have all the quarrels and spat that we have in Nigeria politically? If we love our country, we should be going in one direction now.
Indeed.
To build infrastructure. You build in Borno today. You build in Ekiti tomorrow. We spread it, we go around. Why are we always quarreling? It's because of elite poverty. Not because he lacks house or whatever. But there's insatiable need in his life to continue to acquire.
Avarice.
Yes.
Okay, let me hold you, Chooks, because you did mention this issue of the people we're trying to help. INEC will consider as massive amounts of money for the enlightenment of these same people. Yeah. That is part of what this massive amount of money is meant for. As at the last election, if you ask INEC, what was your level of enlightenment to the public? They say it's not entirely their business. It is not just for them to enlighten the people. The political parties have a role, INEC do have a role, but it is not as magnified as most of us do take the issue. But here we are. Enlightenment of people with respect to election is still very minimal. Why is that, in spite of all of this amount of money?
Because of the nature of our political evolution. Because of the nature of our political evolution. People are interested in paid employment, and I always ask my circle of associates, do you know the origin of paid employment? Because I raise entrepreneurs. So, bringing it down to the question that you asked, you need to check our political evolution. For instance, the nearest one that you and I can relate to is in 1999. You know what the civil society and the journalists suffered, just during the Abacha era and giving
the transition period
to 1999 and all that. And when it was time for us to get into mainstream politics and all that, we abandoned it for charlatans who hijacked the process. And you know that in the last 15 years, that this set of people, very few have been able to find their way into the National Assembly, into governance, maybe at the governorship level and all that. But they've not been able to assert that voice and all that. So, again, the issue of money. You're a journalist. You rise to the position of an editor and all that. For you, it's no longer about the people. It's about the same money that we're talking about. That's why I said that you and I, all of us,
are guilty of it.
Yes, we're not angels. We are whatever. Because your basic needs have to be met. And a man calls you and says, come and become my commissioner for information. You're likely to go. And when you go, you see the picture different. Then you come, we ask you, boy, how far now? We were together at that time and all that. So I've seen a guy explain that I went to government and I now saw clearly what it's like to be on the other side. So I like to empathize with people who are on the other side. But I'm just answering your question to say that this is how it's going to be until that appointed time. And this is what I mean. If you have a child, you give birth to a child today, after about 9 months, that child is likely going to walk. Now, the reason it works is that there's something that divinity has inserted in the mind of that child, given a particular date on which he's going to stand up. Have you ever observed it? You just have a child, one day that child stands up and starts walking. Say, hey, you were not there. When that child was conceived, there's this thing that has been inserted inside that child. It's just like where you're going to be in the next 10 years or where I'm going to be in the next 10 years. Do you understand? There's a date set aside for it. So our coming out of where we need to take education to our children in the primary school, develop our social studies, develop our social responsibility, whatever, and take it to the schools and begin to. It's like the issues of the MDGs, especially the issues of the environment. We need to go back to primaries, to nursery schools, and begin to educate our children, to educate their parents. But politically speaking, the issue of poverty has taken the heart of the people and their soul. There is nothing you are going to tell a man who has not eaten and be preaching to him by INEC or by National Orientation Agency or by his pastor. It's not going to work. It's like a sick person. No, when you go to church, you're going to church as a sick person because you're going to hear the word. And the word is likely going to heal you. But if you finish hearing the word and you go back and there's no food to eat, there's no electricity, there's no water, there is nothing, and you run into a jam where you have to do one wrong thing to be able to survive. Come on.
Okay, let's take a cue from that. If the poor can actually be easily controlled because of lack of money or food in their bellies, let us know how far we have gone in this MDG, the Millennium Developmental Goals. We know that it is a global movement, it's a global move, but with Nigeria in focus, what's your evaluation of the achievements of these goals?
Nigeria as an entity has not achieved anything. So it opens opportunity for a lot of people. People like me in 2008 noticed that nothing was going on. So I just latched into it. It's a good mind for social entrepreneurs like us and all that. And I started publishing the magazine. Now we have a TV, MDG TV. We have so many things that have to do with the MDG. We started producing. Why? Because government has abandoned it. The only person that did something about it, and in fact, he actually signed the protocol on behalf of Nigeria, was former President Olusegun Obasanjo. But the danger that we faced was that as soon as he left government, the man who succeeded him, if you remember very clearly, he started talking about 7-point agenda.
Yes.
Instead of the office of the special advisor of the MDGs to say to him, okay, these MDGs, they took the 7-point agenda and juxtaposed it. Yes. And maybe he was right, but the goals haven't changed. Because he started talking about MST, he started talking about agriculture, he started talking about things like that. As soon as he left, this government came, they started talking about transformation agenda. The same political party, the same country, the same set of leaders. They have connectivity. They're all connected. So you and I has been abandoned to. So we started advocacy. Now, the danger also is that, you know, former President Olusegun Obasanjo established what they call the NEEDS document. He was so passionate. Yes, needs. He was so passionate about this. You know, national economic empowerment, development needs and all that. And he actually compelled the states to adopt it. So when you go to the states, you see the SEEDS document. You have the NEEDS document. Very well-crafted document. The team that crafted the NEEDS document was headed by Soludo, then governor of Central State. And you know the people who constituted the group, Aerofire, all these brilliant young men were brought together to put that. They went around the whole nation, spent money. You're talking about 120 billion naira. And they published these documents, ceremonies, all kinds of things, thinking that no matter whoever comes to government, you will never leave the government. But they did. They abandoned it. Then he established the poverty fund and all that. But the danger of the MDG suffered was actually in the National Assembly. They began to appropriate funds for MDG projects for the different senators and whatever. So they went and they go and put this tiny light in their constituencies. I don't know if you have ever seen those. There's some lights that go there. Then it became a jamboree. They call it solar, whatever. Solar they just light, put like 10 poles and all that in the street. In the night, you don't see with it. During the day, you do not see with it during the night. Then they started these states started appointing commissioners of MDG. So they will put this water tank, put a motorized water hole, MDG all over the place. I have some pictures. we began to deceive her. In fact, they began to steal the money. So I went to a state to do a research, to do a survey. And I said to them, can you show me all the things you've done and all that, as if I haven't gone wrong? And they began to tell me. So I asked a young man among them, looking very handsome and brilliant. So I called him and I said, why is it that all the projects that are abandoned? He said, bros, here, you people call us the civil servants, right? I said, yes. So we are not civil servants, we are evil servants.
End of story.
Then he said to me,
let me hold you there. Let me hold you there, Chooks, because there's so much to talk about with respect to this massive, colossal amount. 120 billion naira is expected to be spent on 2015 election, which is just a couple of months away. Would that amount be enough? Would that amount be under enough? Or what do you say? Should it not? Just as well, let's just have a credible election. We'll be back in the second segment because we're still talking this colossal amount, 120 billion for INEC to run the 2015 election. We will take a short break for the news at 10 and we'll be back. Don't go away.
Core TV News, expanding your view.